Hey everybody, it is Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you how step by step, broken down completely, you can paint for yourself at home this gorgeous, lucky black cat. I really wanted to do a cat, especially a black cat coming up to the 2023 New Year because I feel like they're so lucky and they bring such good stuff to us, and I just love black kitties because they're so beautiful. On the mic is my husband, John. We don't have a black kitty because John is allergic, but we like them very, very much. My kids do too. We all wish we could have a kitty, but until they cure allergies, not yet. So I'm going to be breaking these down step by step. I'm going to explain color mixes, tools that I'm using, brushes I'm using. I try to always let you guys know why. I will demonstrate sketching out the cat step by step, but if you don't want to draw, I provide a free traceable that you can download and transfer on the canvas. If you don't know how to transfer a traceable on the canvas, I have a video about how to do that that isn't very long. Now this live stream right now, if you're here for the live, throw up your hands and say hi. It's so good to see everybody for the live. I'm going to pull up the live chat so I can see everybody in the live chat. And I'll put it on actual live chat, not the filtered live chat. I don't know if you guys know that, but there's a filtered one and then there's that actual one that's happening. I don't know why they give us that choice because I just want to see what's happening right now, not what the most relevant is according to the chat feature. So you can pull that up. If you're here for this, know that you can pause me if I'm moving quickly and you're feeling flustered, but the chat will continue. If you're here on replay, I want to remind you again, you can pause me and rewind. Now to that end, we do break these down into steps. So you'll see step 1, step 2, step 3 go up as we go. And then after the show, I go back through and we timestamp those. Those timestamps are then, and actually that's, everyone thank the mods because they helped me do that.
Yay.
So we timestamp that so you can find the steps again. So if you're going over this, doing this over a couple of days, you can find your spot again. And then later, about 7 to 14 days after a show, we try to get a written out set of instructions that match the steps. That'll tell you the materials in each step and brushes used in each step. After the show, I also put up the brushes I use. So if you're looking for that brush list, I don't always preemptively know what I'm going to use beforehand, and then I use it, because if I do these digitally, I'm not going to necessarily know the brushes. I have a guess, but you know. So we put those up. So that list is there for you. If you paint with me a lot, you'll find that I tend to use the same things over and over again. So it's pretty easy to get my list. And I tend to have a set palette for the most part from year to year. So that's pretty easy to collect up. Canvas. Let's go over the materials in today's class. Did I introduce you and you said hi?
I did.
This is John.
Hello.
He's my co-host and husband.
This other
All right,
person over
so you guys
here.
have been asking me about this canvas. I do really enjoy painting on this. This is the Art Alternatives Classic Cotton 8x8 Studio Canvas, 3/4 inch profile. If you're asking your art stores if they carry that, this is what I'm using. Here's the full disclosure as required by the FTC. They don't pay me to use these canvases. I was given some as a test, fell in love with them, bought a bunch, fell in love with them more, and then they started sending me canvases because they found it mutually beneficial. But if I didn't like them, I wouldn't talk about them at all. So now you know my full bias.
There's
to this
even
canvas.
a further bias, because as soon as we can get our little hands on
we're
them,
going to sell them in our own store.
so
So that's all the bias.
we like them that much.
So you know, but I do really like them. I like the tooth. I like the way they take the paint. I don't like it when canvases fight back. Thank you so much, Heather C, for your super chat. It's a Heather party. So, you know, I just really like the toothy surface. I like the wrap around on it. It's a good drum. I very rarely have to retighten the drum, and it's not crazy in the cost category. So that's my, I don't know, PSA on canvas that you need right now. 8x8 is the size that I'm doing because it sizes up and sizes down very easily. On the palette today, I have Phthalo Green, Ultramarine Blue next to the Phthalo Green, Phthalo Blue next to the Cad Red, Cad Yellow, Dioxazine Purple, Quinacridone Magenta, Burnt Sienna, and Titanium White. Now, if you're wondering, if you're new and you're using student paint, you have hue, and that's going to be inexpensive. It's going to be Cad Red. It's going to say Cad Red Hue. If you're in the pro paints and you're trying to save some money, Golden Artist Colors does such a complete match on the hue. You can absolutely use that and drop some of that cost. A lot of the professional paints have a good matched hue. Even Liquitex now, who went back and matched the hue. So I don't know what they call it, cadmium free now. They rebranded it, but what it basically means is they finally match the paint. So
that's a game we need to make.
Yeah.
Match the hue.
Match the hue. So hue means that it's like the color, but it's not that color. In the terms of paint, hue means something else entirely in color mixing, which if you subscribe, you're going to be able to join the color mixing course, which is going to be beginning in January.
Oh, so many good things.
And you're going to leave that course just never having to buy a convenience tube of paint again unless you want
colorized.
to. And knowing what a convenience tube of paint is.
Yeah, you're going to be totally colorized at the end of that.
Yeah, and you're going to know a lot of color theory and
All
a lot
of
of
the
color
color.
terms. So you can just go into other classes and be sitting there going, I know what everyone's talking about. So hit that subscribe button, and if a free color course sounds good to you, that's going to be releasing. And then a not as free, more invested course is going to be coming up on our new school program. But of course, I always release my core information for free to my students. And then the extra is that for cost. But we'll tell you about that more as we get closer. Oh my goodness. Should we get into the first step? Look at
first step.
I'm going to get like some, oh my goodness. And then I missed the bug. Wait a meow nut. You've got cat to be kitten on me. How positively adorable this beast friend is. Keep up the momentum. Best fishes love bug. Bug is our okay. Like if you're new here, punning is encouraged. If you're in the live chat, drop a pun. We family friendly puns, dad jokes, puns. We love it. Because, you got to keep your sense of humor in art. Shall we throw up a step, babe?
I did it. I was a step ahead of you.
You're a step ahead of me. All right. I'm going to sketch in right now. And I guess I'll just use a number 4 round. This is a small round brush with a good point. It's from my old Art Sherpa line, which can be hard to find right now, but we're going to make a new one soon. This is when you'd use the traceable if you were going to do that. And I think I'm going to actually use, interestingly enough, a mix of my quinacridone magenta and Docs purple to sketch in so you can see it. And the reason for that is so that I can paint over it easily. Now, normally I might sketch this in with a watercolor pencil or something and then paint over it, but this is easier for you to see, or like chalk and stuff. Now, the first thing that I'm going to want to do is sort of scale out how big my hat is. If this is centered, this is what I'm centering around. So I'm going to get my little head in here. This is actually not that different from what I do in my digital, except it's easy to erase all my little sketchy lines.
Right.
So I'm just getting scale. How big, how much space do I want this head to take up in the canvas? And I think one of the things that can be hard when we're freehanding is to get a sense of how large an object is in the canvas. Now, again, if you're using the traceable, some things to know. It's not cheating. It's a technique. They teach it like gridding, like projection. It's just all taught in art school. All of these things are different key accesses to different things you're trying to do. Never feel weird about it. Some artists that are really into gatekeeping will be like, unless you freehand, you're not a real artist. That's not true. Because then, all the real artists that we admire in the museums wouldn't be real artists since they invented these techniques. You will find that I am not up for gatekeeping in art. It kind of annoys me to no end. So you see I've kind of scaled out the face. And then we're going to come in this spot here, and on this spot here is generally where I like to place ears on a cat. I think it's important to make sure that your ears are big enough. These are wonderful predators. And you want to make sure that they can hear their prey. Sometimes if I think about what objects are, they're just little triangles at the top of the head. It's not too bad. And again, we're not getting all into the details of like, you can see how the ear might come in and build structurally off the side here. But when we get that base stuff in. Now, interestingly, if I'm to say that like right here, say, is the center of my canvas, the eyes are and are not kind of totally on center. So if I were to say that there's a bit of a turn to the head, right? And it's a titch off center face, right? It's slightly at a turn. So I'm going to bisect the head. And I'm going to make sure that when I put my eyes in, they would line up pretty well against that. And that's also going to let me know where the structure for my nose and mouth might come in, which is a little bit forward on the head. Isn't that fun to see sort of how you might kind of pop those little objects in? And then kind of comes in on a really fun triangle I'm sketching light because, you know, I may change my mind. I may get in here and be like, you know, I feel like this is not quite on. Or then you might be like, I feel like this is off in some way, and you can change your mind if you do it light. Whether you do it in chalk or whether you do this in paint, giving yourself the option to change your mind and go back and evaluate is always a good idea. So what is the hardest thing sometimes about eyes? It's just making sure that they're on the same plane on the face. That's what we're always sort of trying to do as artists, is make sure that they're on the same plane on the face. And guidelines help us do that. I'm just going to give myself a little sketch to be like, oh, I think there's a nose here. And then I know that there's going to be the little jawline down here. And he's going to be kind of peeky in the flowers. So I don't want to lose his peeky in the flowers. This is where the whiskers will be kind of coming out at. You can think about the planes of the face. And you can kind of see now how, like, your nose lines kind of set your ear lines, and how these things place in relationship to everything else. And try to get it, you know, as reasonably close as I can in this initial kind of stage. Sort of seeing where things are. Make sure I'm happy with that placement, because I can always change it out. Like I can add some white in there and be like, no, I think the eye would be a little bigger in here.
Lots of good color ideas, doing this with teal and...
You can do this in any color scheme that you want. I'm adding white. And again, it's you can't go wrong making little decisions now at this stage. But remember, it's not your last stage. You're painting a lot of stuff in. A lot of him is going to vanish into the black, and you're going to have to sort of reset maybe some of his face or eyes as you go, you know. I think good enough. I'm happy here. You've got the traceable, so you've got it spot on. And we're going to call this a step. When we come back, we'll start putting it in the background.
Do you need to dry it, or is it okay?
I think I should dry it.
Okay.
My thingy's coming free.
Oh, we'll have to remagnet it up.
Yeah, please.
Okay, just give it a quick dry between there, just so that you don't drag your hand through the wet paint. Won't take but a moment. While you're waiting, you can click the thumbs up button for us, for the cute kitty in the lavender colored stuff. Lots of purple. Purpley purple in here. Yeah, I'm with you, Deborah. I like Cinnamon when she does her eyes. They're always so nice. You ready for your step 2?
I'm ready for step 2.
Step 2.
All right. What is wonderful about this is a lot of dry brushing, guys, today. A lot of dry brushing. So, it's good because when you use SketchUp, it doesn't have good painting tools. So we're going to do dry brushing today. As I learn Procreate, that will improve. And I lose one. I'm going to use my nice number. I guess this is the 20. Do I want a 20? I'm going to use the 20 today. Raphael Artney. You could use the usual, which I use, which is the 18, but I picked up the 20, so I'm just going to go with it. So this is a hog bristle brush. One of you guys were asking me about like the brushes that you might buy from Hobby Lobby, and I went there and I did my best to find what might be an approximation. One of the things, if you're going to shop at Hobby Lobby, that I really want you guys to realize is you have to wash their brushes out thoroughly before you use them, or they will shed all over your canvas. Christiana Fagan, thank you so much. So that's just something to know. So I'm going to use this nice big brush, and I'm going to start putting in my fun background. My fun background. Now I got it slightly damp and I'm wiping it off on a paper towel. And I'm going to go ahead and get some, white into here and just a smidge of yellow. And I'm going to make little up and down brush strokes. They're pretty rough. Here in the center, you can grab maybe a little yellow on the corner. I'm going to get a little more yellow here. And you can see I'm just doing rough brush marks. And that's because this gives us almost a pastel feel, doesn't it? Now I'm going to rinse it out and dry it off really well again. I'm going to take a little bit of my quinacridone and my titanium white and then some cad yellow, and it's going to give me kind of a little peachy color. Make sure my brush is dry enough. We don't want that not dry brush. And see how my pressure is very light. And again, this stage, it's very light stage. You don't have to be that perfect with it. So don't put huge pressure on yourself about any of that. I'm going to go a little more pink with some white. And sometimes it's nice to go around the corner of the canvas. Thank you to your right, Cinnamon. I'm going to attempt this cute kitty for my sister-in-law who takes in all the feral cats and they all happen to be black. Aww.
That's so cute.
The kitties will love that. See how I'm just going up and down and paying attention to sort of my brush stroke direction. And I'm letting the bristles and things make marks, right? Maybe come back into my yellow here. Work that back in. That makes kind of a fun orange, doesn't it? That's all we got to do there. And we're going to call that a step. And it should be kind of rough and scratchy.
Yeah.
Which if you think to yourself, you can handle rough and scratchy.
Mm-hmm, totally.
All right, you've got that. You can do that all day. You're like, I'm good. I can handle it. Let's
give it a quick
dry this so we can do the next step.
Right. Yeah, and just make sure you dry between the steps. That makes sure that each layer builds upon the last, and you don't end up sort of mixing the previous color in. Sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't. In this case, we're working in layers because it makes it easier for beginning students to sort of work that out. So that's part of the process that you'll see us doing, is working in layers to make sure that that goes that way. So
We're
now
back from outer space.
On to the third step.
On to the third step. Now I'm going to use a smaller round brush. This is all, actually I'm going to grab this size. This is also a hog brush. This means that the filaments of the brush are made from hog bristles. There is a synthetic hog that you can find, and that will work. What you're wanting is a stiff brush that's a little bit scratchy. This is a number 8 Artini brush. Not that you have to have this brush, I'm just letting you know what it is. And we're going to kind of put in some of our major objects and start sketching those in. Now the first thing I'm going to want to put in is maybe some of these background kind of lilacs. I'm going to get some purple paint, Doc's purple, just on the tip of my brush, and I'm going to come right here and we're going to make a little vertical fellow that I would like to point out. If you're on our Discord, it thought that these were not flowers. It thought that they were something else entirely, which confuses me deeply because John's like, can you fix it? I'm like, I can add stems, but I don't know why it thinks it's what it is. I have no idea. I guess it also flags carrots. Ah, artificial intelligence. Sometimes it's so smart, sometimes it's so not smart.
It'll work it out.
It will find its way. I'm putting that one right there. And you see, these are just short little pullback strokes, aren't they? Pulling back, building this little structure up. Kind of wider at the bottom, thinner at the top. I might kind of weigh that out because sometimes I want to do balance. Let's put a little fellow right here. See, little strokes. This is just the rough of where they are, not the final detail, my friends. The smaller little spike flower. I do a lot of spike flowers just because they cover a lot of different flora that I like very much in flower painting. You know, lupines and oh gosh, blue bonnets and all those. Well, I guess blue bonnets are kind of in their own way a lupine. Putting one down here by his little shoulder. Now let's call that a step because sometimes getting in those initial placements are challenging, and that way you can kind of go through and see what you want to do. Before we put the leaves in, you can dry it so the purple isn't picking up into the green. That can prevent some challenges for you. Let's give this a dry. We'll come back and do the next step.
Yeah, so just make sure in between those you just give them a good dry. That's you can always hit pause with us and dry if you're doing this at home, or if you're doing it live. We generally kind of chat a little bit, so it gives you a chance to catch up. Don't forget to check out our website. There's so much new stuff happening there all the time. All I can say is check out theartsherpa.com. Lots of cool stuff coming and there. So happening all the time.
All the time? What's happening all the time?
The next step, 4.
4 steps and same brush. Let's not change. I'm going to take my burnt sienna and my phthalo green together. This is like the beginning of my basic Sherpa green. If you paint with me all the time, is my darkest green in this painting today. Add a smidge of yellow to it. And come here and kind of paint around my purple flowers, kind of going up and down. See, I'm going up and down. Little vertical strokes, painting in and around. Paint in and around. Very scratchy. You can see the brush marks. A little more yellow over here. Up and down along where this pink kind of matches in. I'm not going to take any of my long work out yet. And it's okay to go into the cat head a bit because you may want to shrink or enlarge something. So it's easy to paint over anything with black. That gives you a little extra room to change mind about something. Now, making a little arched stroke coming out. A little thicker here. And then maybe switches over kind of like a figure 8 and thickness. So it's thicker here, thins in the middle, thicker there. Little kind of line there. Maybe another little one down here. I may not do that one in the center. I don't think I actually like it. And that'll happen. Sometimes you'll be doing something like, I'm not into it. But I'll show you how we fix that anyways. I'm going to just kind of bring some little blades up and down. Now I'm going to get a little more yellow into my mix here. See, so it's a little more yellow green. Maybe even over here to the yellow, very light. There we go. Sketchy little upwards and downward strokes. And if you're not used to doing that, that can feel a little like, whoa, this is crazy, but trust me, you got this. A little more yellow into it. Kind of fill in here. Let some of the pink show through. And that's sort of nice how the pink can show through. Coming on the inside of the little blade here, just kind of adding a little yellow highlight. Right, and then if I want to, I can even get a little white into this yellow green. And add little highlights in here.
As a little highlight to our day, say hi to Jay Moore. Happy New Year, sir.
Jay Moore, Happy New Year! It's so nice to have a visitor.
Hope
So
Julie
nice.
is doing well as well.
All right, pulling this in here. See how we're just adding little pops of yellow, and it's just creating some dynamic little lighting. A little bit there. I like to play with it. Okay. Before I move on, I want to set a couple stems, I think, just so I know where they are. I'm going to go back into my darker green, and I'm using my number 4 round. That was the synthetic round that I used to sketch in the cat. These are sort of darker. You can also come in with that sort of sharper brush and define some of these little grasses a bit. See, creating little contrasts. Now, I'm going to dry this all up, and then we're going to come back and do the finishing touches on the background. You're going to love it.
Okay. Yeah, this won't take but just a moment to dry this up. This is, I can't wait till we get to the kitty eyes. They always look so nice. As you guys know, we all like seeing her eyes. Yeah, and if you want to see more animals like this, you can go out to our website, theartsherpa.com. As I said before, I plug it a little bit. It's got a lot of good resources out there. We really do work hard to make sure that that's got some cool stuff for you. So that's why we plug it all the time.
I love Scratchy.
Next steps, eh?
Next step. Keeping on with my same round brush on step 5. Now we're going to come back and do some negative space painting, which is painting between these objects, right? To kind of reset the background. Also, I had a reason why I put stems behind the cat, trying to layer it in. I feel like they look like antenna now, so I'm taking them out. As is my prerogative. I'm going to take a little bit of my cad yellow and my quinacridone magenta. Maybe a little of my cad red here. Kind of create a more vibrant orange. And come into my cat's ear and kind of paint over that. See how it fades it back? So it's there, but it's just not as annoying to me. And I'm going to come in and maybe paint around the ear and kind of between some stems. And we'll wipe off a bit and get some more yellow and orange. Maybe put some in the spaces there. Kind of paint between some of these things here. I like this because I feel like it creates a sort of pop of light that happens. I am going to wipe that out. I'm going to get a lot of white and a smidge of yellow. And again, I'm putting those back because I just feel like I don't love it. You should only have what you love in your painting. And faded, they bother me less. I'm going to take a little bit of this yellow and white a couple places. Paint between the stems. Maybe come along and lighten that inside of that stem, sort of pulling that out from the background. And get into my quinacridone and yellow and white, which makes that wonderful sort of warm pink. And you have more quinacridone to make it pinker and more yellow to make it oranger. Kind of brushing back in. Not wonderful. So we still have that halo around him. And I dry brush and I let what's already here sort of show through. So one of the things I love about acrylic paint, one of the things that makes it worth its frustration is it can look like other mediums, right? Like you get this sort of effect if you were to do like pastels. Okay, let's call this a step. We're going to dry it and come back and finish these background flowers.
Yeah, give it a quick dry.
Dry, dry, dry.
And thank you, everybody, for the well wishes and holiday cheer. We so appreciate it. I do have a birthday coming up here at the end of the year. We'll be getting to that. It stays away, so, you know, it's one of those things. Time keeps on ticking away. But here we are. Ready for your next step?
Mm-hmm. Ready. And what's great is sometimes when I'm looking at something, I can be like, oh, I want to raise the nose up some or change a line of something. So this time staring at your main sketch is fantastic time because you'll start to think to yourself, oh, I see this thing I want to do that's different than what I did. I'm going to take a little bit of my quinacridone and purple and a little white. Make this kind of cool, reddy, pinky color. Same brush. This is the number 8. And I'm going to make little marks, kind of creating this first level of depth to the painting. add another little one there. Sometimes when you're going, you'll be like, oh, I feel like I want another little one. Little kind of focus on that, layering it out. The second layer starts to pull them in and helps them find their shape. Now I'm going to get a little of the white onto my brush. Really make quite a light color. And we'll tap little highlights on our flower. See that? Barely there. Mostly focused. So we're getting that slight highlight on these. Maybe up here, it can be a little bit at the top. Isn't it fun how they come in? So notice that my load on my paint is mostly at the toe of this brush, and it gives me some control, even though my brush is as fluffy and crazy as probably your hog brush. If you don't like the fluffy craziness of natural hog, synthetic hog is how you get around that. Because Taklon filaments won't tend to flail out like that. I'm going to rinse my brush out. Rinsey, rinsey, rinsey. And I'm going to take a little bit of my Dioxazine purple into my ultramarine blue. Get a little white involved. And add some little kisses of that kind of periwinkle blue-white. Be as playful as you want.
It's a very pretty kitty.
It's a very pretty kitty in a very pretty floral garden. It's super artful. And I'll have to say, here's my prediction. As we move forward with artificial intelligence art, we may, as human beings, appreciate the things that show their hand construction even more, right? So
Yeah.
you may find that your paintings and their brush strokes become more and more appreciated over time as people begin to really embrace this idea that we want, you know, things that are made by us.
Made by peoples.
Made by peoples. Not that I am anti-artificial intelligence. I'm not. I think there's a lot to think about there. And I think there's a lot that artists need to be able to talk to the developers about for sure. But I just think in general for the art world, what we'll find is that that which is handmade on canvas will suddenly, which is, let's be honest, it's the real NFT.
Right.
This is one, you know, there isn't two. Even though you paint yours and I paint mine, only this one exists on my surface painted with my brushstrokes, right? Only yours exists on your surface painted with your brushstrokes. That uniqueness now maybe will become even more appreciated. That's a theory that I have. We'll see if I'm right over time. I'm focusing this dark dioxazine purple at the bottom, really trying to create some dramatic contrast as you do. I'm going to rinse out thoroughly. Get some white and my pink together.
So what's the cat pressure?
Cat pressure. What is cat pressure? So back in the early days, I don't know, 10 years ago, when I was first on YouTube, cannot believe YouTube has been here this long. I would try to describe brush pressure, how hard you put weight through your body, through the brush to the canvas, how hard you're pushing into this canvas with your brush, because that's what controls line. And in trying to describe that, I was like, well, how gently would you pet a wet, angry cat? That's how gently you need to be pressing right now. But then it was pointed out to me a lot of people had never been around a wet, angry cat. So I was like, all right, maybe I need a different analogy. We're going to add a little pink here and there. Little light touches. See how that is? That's just wonderful, isn't it? Sometimes maybe a little more pink. Perhaps a little lighter. Different places. It really just depends. Who knew these flowers were so paintingful? Right? Do I prefer acrylics to watercolor? Asked Sylvia. Mm-mm. No, I have a larger student base of acrylic students, and so then tend to do more acrylic lessons. And I had some stuff happen last year that kind of threw my heart off a little bit, and I wasn't able to paint watercolor without associating those things. So I've been trying. That's been kind of an artist block for me. So I've been trying to work through that. But 2023 is my come through it, come through the fire year. I'm gonna come out the other side, and I'm gonna be all me again. Isn't that right, John?
Yeah, I think all of us are.
Adding some of these little light values here and there. But then I can come right back into this pink, right? This strong quinacridone. Look at how that looks there. It just pops. Okay. That, I feel, is the background flowers. What do you guys think?
They turned out really nice. That's a beautiful background.
Lynn, when will you do watercolor? I'm still working through some strong feelings, Lynn. I'm, we're so transitory with everything with the relocation to Ireland, and I haven't been able to get, I couldn't stay with my therapist because they don't treat out of state, and so I haven't really been able to even unpack or work through it the way I'd like to. And we're just all starting to get back into that cycle of self-care. And the thing is like sometimes you just have an emotional feeling and it impacts how you create. It just does. And you can't, what you've got to do is you've got to just honor where you're at right now emotionally. And even with the pressure of like, oh, I have students and I have people who want watercolor classes, and I can't really explain to anybody why this has happened. I can tell you that it has happened, though. It has happened. And so it's just been really hard for me. I just sometime in 2023, I'm working on it every day. I'm journaling. I'm trying to work through it. I'm trying to let it go, as they say in Frozen, doing my best to let it go. I've been listening a lot to the wisdom of Olaf, the snowman, who's like, this is us controlling things when things are beyond control. Like I've been just rewatching it going, this is where I'm going to heal, is with Olaf. All right, I'm going to draw this canvas.
So thank you guys for joining us. It's been really nice having everybody here. It's lovely. So lovely to see everybody here in the chat with us. I love having you guys. It's lovely to have our family and just do this on a random Tuesday afternoon. We paint a cat in some flowers. Because who doesn't like cats and flowers? That's a fun thing, right? Yeah, I'm glad we're having regular classes again too, Jane. We're going to have a lot more of these. It's just, like I said, Simon and I just love doing this, so we're going to keep doing it in so many new interesting ways.
What?
We're going to keep doing this in so many new interesting ways.
Yes.
You ready for
I love what I do. I'm very grateful to do what I do. I'm ready for another step. I'm just trying to decide
steps.
filbert or not to filbert. I'm going to filbert. Maybe I'm
filbert with the cat.
I don't know. The flat looks pretty good, but I love the filbert, so probably filbert. A filbert is a rounded brush. A flat or a bright is a square brush. So this brush has a bit of a curve to it, which I like. It's a number 4 Isabey. I'm going to get right into my black. And I may mix it with some purple, so there's a bit of that in there, but really I want to be strong in my deep color. And I'm going to begin to rough in my cat again. Now I've got a nice sketch, so I'm not really painting blind. Come in, if you're using the traceable, you're just going to paint on the inside lines of your traceable. I'm going to move the nose up at this stage of the painting, so right now he's going to be just like he's masking. He's just masking. At this stage, I am doing scale. And what's really nice, because this painting is dry behind, if I want to erase something, I can just get a wet brush and sort of take it off there. So I don't have that to really have to worry about. Just getting that scale going back in. Now, I think it's important to think about the structure of kitty faces, and, they're quite strong. They have quite good, strong bone structure.
I love how the kitty eyes just pop.
Yeah, they're just going to pop, pop. And I have a lot of flowers coming up, so much of him is behind. I watch a lot of animal videos, as John can attest to.
In this undercoating phase, is the brush direction not as important?
Not even at all. Just covering the canvas with this dark value at this stage. We will be thinking about it. We've got a couple coats here, so right now what we're trying to do is just make sure that our canvas, that we get a sense of how much space he's taking up in the canvas. And that he's weighty enough in the composition. Because he's hunting. He's out here hiding in the bushes. We all know what they do. They get out there in the garden and they're like, I hide in these lupines. And I'm going to get the dog. Who's over there sleeping peacefully. But I can't have that. Now, I'm going to take him quite down far, and the reason I'm going to go down far is because the flowers will be popping out of this, but they are quite dark around him. So here at this sort of center, it goes down black, but then I'm going to be moving out with the Docs purple, which you can see is dark, but not black. See how that's a little different?
Yeah.
And I create an uneven little edge there on the lower right. So I kind of pull down and use the shape of the brush to create an implied flower blank. Going across. I use the edge of this brush. It will help me create a natural looking space. You know, I've got like white flowers and different flowers to put here, but come really far up his head. Because he's super hidey holy. He's hiding. Let your kitty be hiding. There we go. And then all the rest of this will be purple. Pure Dox purple. The reason I do Dox purple instead of one of the violets is that it is a purple that's spectacularly difficult to get a good hue on mixing. You get a lot of violets and purples with quinacridone, magenta, and ultramarine blue. But this deep purple that's almost a black, and it shows up in weird sunsets and stuff like this, the mix between the Cad Red and the Dox purple, is why I keep this convenience color in my palette, which we'll be talking about in our color mixing class, how you pick a palette and why you pick the palette you pick. Okay, so now we have this baseline shape of composition to work from where we can see the weight of the objects in that space, right? We can then make sure that we have good line on everything, like compositional line, like, oh, do we like how that is? You know. Okay, time to dry. Time to dry, my friends. Time to dry.
And this is just so we can get those nice under coats. So yeah, so just don't worry about the brush direction too much. Just get that sort of laid in there, and it should be okay. Just thoroughly dry it. That way, when the next layers that come on are gonna lighten from here. So we're gonna lay subsequent layers that will be lighter and lighter, and that will that will help make that so. All right, you ready there?
I'm ready here. Okay, I'm going to get into my number 4 round, any good sharp round that you have. I'm going to start working on the eyes. Now, on my eyes, I'm going to first come in with some black and start to clean up my lines around them. I will be widening them out, but I just need to have a nice clean space to work on around them. This will be one of the few times we dry without it being a step. If you have the traceable, your cleanup work will be a little bit easier than if you freehanded. If you freehanded, this is sort of where you make adjustments and move things. Okay. Now I'm going to dry this, not a whole new step. We just want to dry before we go on.
Okay.
Da 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 da. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of my quinacridone magenta over to my Cad Red. Kind of work those together with my number 4 round. Pretty much Pantone's color of the year over here. I'm going to add a little white to it. And we begin to work the inside structure of that eye. Come back with a little of my black. I'm going to rinse out. Now, the green, it's going to be, yes, still my phthalo green with a little bit of brown in it, but we're going to start by adding our yellow. So it's a pretty vibrant green, even though it's not like emerald green. It's going to give us a fairly dark color. We'll go ahead and paint over the irises. They'll still show through. One of the things that was likely super appealing to you was the way that they glowed, and we are going to get there for sure. Absolutely. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my purple and a small amount of white. And come around the eye. And then underneath. Right, we're going to be strong in the purple here. Maybe a strong white and purple. We're letting the green kind of settle on the inside of the eye. Highlight here coming down. Got my black again, and I'm coming underneath the lid. Black again coming underneath the lid. Sort of the shadow of the lid, right? And if your painting isn't dry enough to take it yet, then you may need to dry. This is just sort of a shading at the beginning. Okay, now from here I am going to dry it. We are going to call it another step because we need to have that basis in to get the rest of the eye in.
Right.
So dry this completely.
And we'll go on to the next step here. Just excuse me, just want to make sure that as we're building up the layers of the eyes, it's really important to get those dry. You ready?
Yes.
Next step?
Yes. So one of the things about this is this green in the eye is actually the complement of Diox purple. So you would normally think of yellow as being the complement of purple, and it is, but Diox is such a weird place on the color wheel that its true complement is this crazy green, yellow green. So that's why we chose that in our thinking on what to do. So I'm going to take my initial green that I had over here, and we're going to start getting it into that complement. You know, and if I need to, I might like kind of come on the toe and come in. Starting to get it there. I've dried my brush out. I'm grabbing a little purple and white. Coming under the eye. Up over that lid a little bit. We will be exaggerating this with our dry brushing in a little bit, but it is good to get this starting in. Don't want to miss this chance. Kind of highlighting it and getting that work done. A bit heavier in the forward highlighting. Get into a little more of the white. Maybe even a little yellow in that for inside the eye. Underneath. I'm going to get a little of my purple magenta here. Loving it. Now, a lot more yellow into this mix. And then some white. See that starting to get in there? Just brush that in, really starting to light that eye. Get the darker in here and kind of create a little bit of interior eye shading. And then up here under the lid. And kind of shaded just lightly around the back side. So you want the light to be under, and then the darker areas to be under a lid and at the outer corners. Kind of also helps really shade what we've got. I just keep getting more yellow into it, and then let's get even more white. But it's still a yellow green, right? See how we're just pulling that in there? It's just luminous. And come in and tap in just a little bit of cad yellow to even pop it up. Do I get into my eyes maybe a little too much? Yes, maybe. But I love how they come out when they're done. So I'm going to take a little of this yellow over to the black. See how we're doing? Yellow and black actually make green. So we're creating a lot of drama and depth, and yet using, you know, our color as we understand it to create some really spectacular drama. Kind of shadowing in on the inside of that eye a little bit. Okay, to finish this, it needs to be dry, so let's dry it, and I'll show you how to hit the highlights on this, and then we will finish out the rest of the cat. We'll call this a step though.
Yeah.
So just you guys, and maybe we'll like close in on it on the mini book so you can really see it, but how you place these little highlights pops the eyes and makes them really wet.
Yeah, so we'll continue to go on to each step. The eyes. I like how these eyes come together. So thank you guys here for joining us through all this stuff, through all the little steps as we go, the drawing and the stepping and the drawing and the stepping.
So Lily wants to know if you can print calendars for sale using this as references. No. But you could make calendars as gifts for your friends. That's the mechanical reproductions that we totally allow. In general, we don't allow mechanical reproductions for sale because that would just get out of hand for us. That just gives permission to the people that do the print on demand on Amazon. So that's why we have that there in general. But like if you were to do, say, one for a charitable organization, you could come get special permission for us for that, like raising money for animals to protect animals. We might give a special like one-time reason license for something like that. So always rate us, because generally you guys have a good reason for why you're doing this stuff. And while our license would specifically allow it, we might give you a one-time use thing to do the good thing that you're doing, that we want you to be able to do good things and make the world better. So always rate us, because We have lots of ways to do things, even if we don't have that current way of doing things. Now I'm going to take, this is really cool. This is a number 4 Textor. I really like the Textor line. It's got a good point, and I'm going to use that to create, I've just got just white here, the highlights inside my eyes. I'm going to add a little highlight right there. And one on that inside corner. I'm going to begin on the outside here. Maybe tap in. Kind of breaking up that eye there. See that light going there? Just dipping in a little bit of the paint there, just to getting that inside corner there. Little dots here. These are like little wet line reflections, see, that just really pull the eye together. And then just a little bit on that outside edge. Now, I may have to come back and put some pink back in to thin that line, and that's not uncommon for that to happen. Just because, you know, okay. So see, we've got some nice highlights in those different places. I'm going to thin that back out. So I rinse out my brush and I wipe it off with a towel so it doesn't have any little water drops on here. And then I'll come here into my pink. I have to even go in more into my, and then over into my black just to thin that out a little bit. See what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to do that to get the line where you need it to be.
Did I step on that? I don't think I did.
It's okay if you didn't. It's all in the eye.
It's all in the eye. It's okay. We can continue this being the same step.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If it didn't change steps, it doesn't matter.
I didn't. I don't think I did not step it.
I think I said something though. So
You
this time
did.
it was me. You did it. I didn't do it. All right. So we have some eyes on our kitty cat.
There's some eyes there.
We have some glowing eyes.
They were all the 9th step.
All right. So we have these wonderful eyes that are glowing, which is what we wanted. The bug, was that a step? I don't know, bug. I don't know. It could be separated into a step to do because I had to dry it, but you could do it all in one step. So I don't think it hurts us for the purposes of what we're learning to do.
Okay.
Okay. Shall we call this a step, though?
Yes,
we don't have
this
to dry
time,
anything. Let's call it a step, and we'll continue on to paint the cat.
This time I will remember to hit the button.
Why do I spend so much time on eyes? Because that's where our pets are. Our pets are in their eyes. Even more than their markings, even more than anything else. Their eyes is where they are, where we know them. So knowing how to paint your pet's eyes is like huge. I could just have whole courses on pet's eyes. Okay, so over here I have my quinacridone red and my cad, quinacridone magenta and cad red. And I'm going to add a little white into it. I'm going to come here to the inside of the ear and make sure that I have a little bit of this color, so when I come back with my dark purples, it's there to glow, because you do want this to glow, because where a cat's ears are a little thinner on the skin, you'll see that glow, and so you just don't want to miss that for any reason. It just needs to be there and dry for a second. Now I'm going to come in with my number 4 round and just think about my nose and stuff again. Remember I said I wanted to move it up just a bit. I don't want to go totally Persian, but I definitely want to move it up a bit. So I'm going to look at that and see if I'm happy with that location. Adding a little bit of a highlight out there. Little purple and white, so it's there. So I'm just capturing like the highlight of that nose, right? Not all the structure, which is really nice for you guys. When you don't have to paint the structure of the whole nose, it's a little bit easier to do, yeah? And we'll go ahead and we will kind of imply that that lower open lip is about an inch down from that. So I've got the top of the nose, lower inch lip, centered on that eye, and we're starting to just see it now. I'm going to tap a little bright highlight of purple and white over here. There we go. So just starting to think about.
You can always post these paintings up on Facebook pages, right?
Yeah, please. Listen, and you guys can sell your original paintings. I don't care if you sell to your friends or family. If you do it at an exhibit or show or online, please just credit the source of the design. But other than that, have a blast. You know, we've got a use policy, and if ever you have a question about it, you can write us. And again, you know, we tend to err on the side of you guys, if that makes sense. So if you need something, like we created a whole like licensing program, so if you work at a library, you can do the painting parties there. You know, because we know libraries just, you know, they go through a lot. So we have like a free licensing program for libraries and for like scouts and stuff. We totally get it. Art is for the community. So I'm trying to create the arc of the nose here and pull a little line down. And the less I paint, the more my mind fills in, the better cat my mind will make. It's a weird rule, but it's
the
a
better
true
the
thing.
cat in my mind.
I'm going to get back into my scruffy brush because it's just a good one. And I'm going to just really be working purple and white for a second. So I've mixed a little bit of purple and white. And I'm going to come between my kitty eyes. And there's this sort of triangle that happens here that I want to capture. All right, and so I'm going to get a little white. This is going to be just me. This is actually, interesting enough, almost a value study. I'm going to come in and start a highlight at the bridge of the nose. And also one here where the little muzzle will be coming out. And because this is basically black and white, I can, if I get anything off, I can always just adjust it. I'm not stuck anywhere. So I'll come here with like just a little bit of purple and I'll make little short brush strokes. This is now where maybe your brush directionality might matter. So I'm going right there, kind of highlighting the outside of that eye. A little bit of black, a little bit of Doc's purple, a little bit of white. Kind of arcing that around. And purple is so close to the chromatic black, right? It's almost a chromatic black in this painting that as we layer over, it will continue to deepen, you know, the color that we have. So you can kind of thin your line out over your eye and but then I can come in and get a little white and highlight maybe out here. Just the beginning of it, just the beginning of its little highlight. A little bit of a purple outer highlight on this part of the fur here that you can kind of dry brush down. A little bit there, kind of implying the muzzle. Just a curving. A little bit there, kind of implying a lower lip. And a little bit right here, sort of like on the upper area, like where you know that eye would be.
Now this is a really dark painting, which is it's super. I'm gonna adjust the camera a little bit to see if I can
Catch a little darker highlight there. There you go. Trying to see where the highlight.
try to pump
highlights.
that up a bit more. It's super dark while we're all.
I always do this to John, where he's like, "Please no more dark paintings."
There we go.
Then
Pump
all I
that
do
up
is
a bit.
dark paintings. I'm like, it is what it is, babe.
Now you see there, it's much more subtle than what I've got here, but I'm popping it up so you guys can see it. It's super pumped. It's dark. It's a kitty in the leaves.
He is a kitty in the leaves. He's hiding. It's a black kitty. So when you paint black fur, right, there's a whole series of different highlights. You can do purple, you can do blue, you can do kind of warm browns and oranges. But what it is you have a depth of black, and then what you're really painting is the highlights on the fur. That's really how you see your kitty. Coming here and just sort of getting a little bit of a purple and white outline out here. And out there. And I'm working the dark areas first, because it's actually pretty easy to highlight, but you know, you've got to kind of layer up, layer up, layer up. I'm adding a little purple to the inside of that ear so that that little glow is just a hint, right? We want that little glow to be just a hint. And come here also and kind of make this little glow just a hint. I'm grabbing some just purple and I'm brushing in, and the glow is just a hint. Just a little bit out here. And then I'm going to come through with black. Right? And kind of blacken up. Darken up around my first low highlights. This depth is what is really just critical. A little depth on the inside of that eye. That dark color. Now we have just enough paint to start seeing him, and what we're going to do is we're going to dry everything, and then we're going to come in and hit some highlight details and then fill in the middle ranges.
Yeah, sorry. We'll do a new step here, for sure. And yeah, a lot of times these darker paintings, it can be very, very hard to get that to work. So we'll try to keep making little adjustments here as we go. Okay.
Okie dokie.
So we're ready for the next step.
The next step. I'm going to get back into my number 4 round because it gives me a lot of control. I'm going to come into my white and purple. I'm going to make a fairly light color. I'm going to come here on the inside of the ear. And find that shape of the ear with that highlight. On the outside, a little bit on that inside. I'm going to do the same here. Across the top of that. A little more purple. Coming with a little purple white. At the bridge of that nose. Kind of highlighting up there. Just a little bit here. Coming in there. Wiggling that back and forth, capture that little highlight. And if I need it to be more purple, right, if I need to take it out of that light bright, see, it's pretty easy to soften back in, isn't it? We don't have to work hard to change our minds. Come here to the outside edge again. Just that purple and white. Just keep building up that highlight, right? Like there's a nice one across that bridge on that fur.
Yeah.
Darker than that, I just come back in with a darker purple. You can trim in any highlight that way. Just getting that purple in. And I'm wiggling my brush in and sort of blending it out. Maybe a little highlight on the outside of that ear. Maybe another little highlight on the outside of that ear. But it's just that purple and white. These are subtle things. I know it is hard for John to film, you know, but it's fun to get into. Okay, so like, is this the highlighted one? Okay, there. When you throw and show me the highlighted one, I'm like, crud, I gotta knock that back.
No, that's pumped up so they can see it.
Don't do it like you see it here.
No, I can back that back down so you can see it's much more subtle. I've just really
just do it on the overhead because that one's
there you
correct.
go.
That's how it should be looking right now. It should be a subtle thing. Don't do it like you see it on the pump. John just wants you to be able to see it. Come here, a little bit of white and purple. Kind of right there in that highlight. The outer eye. There maybe. A little bit of a highlight there in the nose. Again, that's crazy. Don't do that. That looks crazy. Show the overhead. Okay. That's the level that you want. Don't do the pumped up level.
I just do that so they can see it.
Yeah, that's just so you can see it. John's doing that for you guys so that you can see it. But you don't want it that pumped up. Get back into the white. I'm going to go for a lighter.
Yep.
On this outside of the ear. Sometimes it takes a minute to get it. Little white and purple. It's not pure white, but it is definitely lighter. See on the outside edge of that ear. And then maybe a little bit on that inside. And then a little bit of implied deep ear hair with a little purple, white, magenta. See how we're doing? But it's deep. And a little bit there maybe, and a little bit there. And then a brighter highlight right here. Let's bring it to this point in that outer corner of that eye. Kind of like more edged out there. And a little bit extra highlight on that outer edge of that fur there. Just a little bit extra on this little bit of fur here. Okay, so there we are. Let's look at it overhead. We're going to dry it, and then we're going to put in our whiskers, which are going to be a journey.
There's a lot of whiskering, and it's not that big a deal. I mean, you gotta get them in there because they have to feel their way around in there, and then we'll get to the foreground flowers, and that'll sort of wrap it all up. Cute little kitty. Those cats can be very sneaky. All right.
What?
They're sneaky cats.
They're sneaky. He is sneaky.
All right, you ready for the next step?
Cat. Next step, because the whiskers are their own journey. All right, I'm going to get into a little purple white. So it's not pure white. I'm going to come here. I'm going to set my hand so I have as steady of a stroke as possible. I'm using a #1 monogram liner. It's good to have a detail brush. Whatever your smallest, finest pointed detail brush is, that is your whisker brush. I don't know if I like that last whisker. Pretty easy to erase though if I don't like it. So I can go through and just take it out. I don't like it, I just take it out. So again, a little bit, I just bring a drop of water in over, sort of thin my purple and white, but I still need it to be thick enough to you know, paint out. A little bit right there, a little crazy here. I might go back through with a little purple and kind of trim that in a bit because the line got a little thicker than I'd like. But as you can see, you can trim it back in. That little bit of mouth just sort of showing there will be important later. Very light pressure. Don't worry about it being a thick continuous line. It's okay if some of the whisker is showing and some of it is not. Especially in a darker animal, which is why it's almost a dry brush. See how I did there? So it's there. You can see it. But it's not everything. Just wanting to capture that. Okay, that's the whiskers. Their journey.
Nice
I
whiskers,
will
yeah.
tell you the truth. It is a lot.
It is.
It is a lot.
So now we do a new step.
Flowers. Yes, finally.
Let's go to a new step.
New step. And I'm going to just use my little scruffy brush here again because we're back into the background techniques that were just sort of rough and playful. And I'm going to come in and get a little white into my quinacridone and pink and quinacridone pink and yellow mix. And I'm going to make some little star flowers. Sometimes they might have more yellow in them, and it's okay. Make some of them big and make some of them small. They're just little stars. This is a number 6. You might want to switch down to a number 4 if you're not getting good control with your number 6. Or just use a round synthetic if you're having a real hard time with it. Don't feel like you're stuck. Sometimes I'll make some petals shorter. It just changes the direction of the face of the flower. You're going to be frustrated because you're going to end up painting over some of your whiskers, but to get the nice continuity, sometimes you do. So these are these little white ones that are coming out. Let's put a little one down here maybe. I roll my brush sometimes, as you'll see, to hold the point. It's pretty useful. And these really exist mostly over here. They're not really a flower that exists everywhere in the purple. I'm going to rinse out. And in this, I'm going to be doing mostly a mix of my Docks purple and my quinacridone magenta and a little bit of white. The initial one is not too bright. And I'm going to start to paint just highlights to these little flowers that are clumped down here. Not taking out all of the dark, and we'll come back and put some dark back in. This is just the beginning of what we see. These are more like, so whereas these are spikes, these are more of a ball, kind of like a clover shape.
Right.
You can see it's a fairly dark purple. Touching just the tip of the brush. See, we're right there, and we just make this little weird irregular shape. Another little weird irregular shape. Enjoy that, man. Enjoy your weird irregular shapes. So this type of painting where it's very impressionistic is actually done mostly by your brain, by the viewer's brain. They finish the flowers for you. And the cat. Just really all of it. They do all the work. Right? Your brain gets to do all the work here. Very dark through here, and then it gets the highlights, and where you see the highlights is where you start to go, oh, there's sunlight coming through the garden, dappling here and there, broken up by plants and trees and things. How exciting for us, the viewer.
It's a very faint dapple.
It's just the beginning. Just lets you know. It's this, I do this to frustrate John. as much as possible. Kind of soften that little hint. I might even soften some of these little. I'm sort of glazing over the whiskers to make them a little fainter, so that they're a little bit more in shadow. It's a fun thing you can do. As I'm coming forward, I just add a little more white to the mix. You can add a little more pink if you want to, and then we're going to come here and suddenly see more. All right, now we can see a little more. Not everything, but more. I don't paint away the middle dark that I put down, right? Because I worked for that. In my mind, I'm picturing little balls and just highlighting the top of them. I really like this. This is the, have you toned it back down, or you have it up so they can see?
I have it up for them to see.
Okay, so this is what it's looking like right now, for real, in real life, not the crazy other thing. Which John is on your side when he does that. Normally I'd be like, no, don't let it look crazy. But he's like, they have to see. I'm like, fair enough. You're half the team. You probably know what you mean. They know what you're talking about. See, so John is your team. When you think of us here in the film studio, it'd be like, John is team you guys in chat. Make sure you guys can see and get the things that you're asking for that I might be missing because I'm teaching. Don't paint the best flower of your life right here, because I'm going to put signature there. You might too. Sometimes it's so important not to paint the best flower of your life. This side is maybe a little more highlighted over here, as you can see. Okay, let's call this a step. We don't really have to dry it, but we should call it a step because you need to get here to do the next part. Step 15. So many steps in this one. All right, I'm going to get a lot more pink into this. And I'm definitely going to put some of that pink around, guys. See, I'm touching it around. Little pops of pink. This will help when I put the highlights. This is a darker pink. So it's the quinacridone over to the Docs mixture. Just much stronger in the pink. Now a lot more white. Just hatching the tops of those. This is just going to help us find the shapes of those flowers. They're going to just pop out now. That's what our highlight lets them do. It's just pop out. loose brush strokes and let them find their little moment. Isn't it wonderful how it comes together? I'll even grab some of that interesting color right there. Sometimes I like to find interesting colors around the canvas and kind of work them in. We're going to heavily highlight over here. See, we're starting to see the shape of everything through those highlights. Darker in the center, highlighted over here. So worth it. Can always grab some Quinn and pop a little pink into it, which I really love. Okay, rinse that out. And then this wonderful number 4 Raphael Textor, or whatever detail brush you have, or your liner, we're going to come in and we're going to start to work on these flowers. So I'm going to take a little white over to my quinacridone cad yellow mixture. We'll maybe pull a little more cad yellow into it, but mostly I want it to be pretty light. And I'm going to accentuate my petals that were so roughly painted with this little brush. Aren't they? Isn't this fun? Little loose brush strokes. Look at that go down. And now they sort of pop against the background, don't they?
They really do.
What a fun way to paint. Maybe a little more white. For those of you that are painting, I know a lot of you guys are painting your pets or pets that have crossed the rainbow bridge. I hope this is helping you paint that darker fur. I have a short video on how to paint black fur if you just need a recap of kind of the basic concept. It has a little pug in it, and it's not long, and it's even funny. Well, I think it's funny. I don't know if it's actually funny. You can see I kind of curl my little petals, and it gives them shape, doesn't it? Let's watch this. So it's like a little comma. And that gives a face to the flower. Gotta love it so much. I love those right there. And now I'm going to take a little cad yellow and a little cad red and kind of mix them loosely together. They're not thoroughly mixed. They're what's called loosely mixed, so you can kind of see a little bit of both in the mix. And we'll hit the center of those flowers with that. This painting is about contrasting color palettes. And that is a lot of what makes it super interesting and super fun. So what you're really enjoying here is that, you know, for the purple lovers in your life, it is the way that the yellows and purples and, you know, the deep diox and that like chartreuse bright green are playing against each other. It just really pulls together, and it's fun contrast. The light flowers against the black cat, pulls that in focus, and then his light eyes against his black background, pull that into focus. And then the light halo around him is what pulls it all together. Guess what we get to do now, John?
Sign it?
Sign it!
It's a signing time.
I get to sign it.
This is so fun.
I'm going to take my number 1 liner and I'm going to just give this a little signature. Now, next week we get a really fun and chill. This was definitely its full hoot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But next week is just a happy, easy, chill rainbow landscape. So I would say, easier. I've got 1 hoot scheduled up, which is the easiest level of my painting of a little girl making a wish, blowing a dandelion. We've got a gorgeous 3 hoot fairy in a flower garden coming up on the 1st of January. So you've got the rainbow, the fairy. Very importantly, you've got Van Gogh Irises 1, which is the irises in a vase. That's the easiest of those. And then an insanely gorgeous landscape of a sunset reflected in water. And then a beautiful Latour pansy painting. So we're reproducing that Latour pansy painting. But then I'm so indulgent. I'm doing my favorite painting in the universe, which is Van Gogh's Irises, where it's purple irises with one white iris. And what I'll say is, if you've ever felt the odd duck out, if you've ever felt one of these things is not like the others, if you've ever felt I don't fit in my family, in my community, in my world, everyone, I feel like so different, but not bad about it because it's a flower, right? It's just, I am different. I'm still a flower. I'm just a different flower. That painting is one that no matter your skill level, come to, because that painting, the first time I saw it, it was incredibly healing to me, and I think it would be healing to you. So that's why we have 2 irises. One to teach the technique in case you need to come up on the technique and you want to do that painting. And also because they make a nice pair in your home, and it's on slightly bigger canvases. We've got 11 by 14s coming up. So there's some bigger canvases coming up. And then also that color mixing course. You don't want to, if any of this color mixing was at all challenging, you don't want to miss my color mixing course, because it will, as much as Big Art Quest 1 changed the game for so many people. And if you were here for Big Art Quest 1, tell everybody in the chat so they read it later how game-changing that was. As game-changing as that, but here's the key difference. Organized, linear, sequential, and all the resources and materials, especially if you join the school, will be easy to locate. If you're like on a budget and you're like, no, I just got to catch videos as you drop them, cool, we got you. But if you're like, I'm ready to take on that next step and I'll sign up for Sherpa School, watch for that. I'll be in the newsletter. The patrons will get the first announcement. The newsletter will get the next one. And then, I think it's going to be a game changer for people. And it's really good course. I've been writing on it for a while, and I think John can tell you.
Yeah.
One of the best things, you know me. I don't do it unless it's worth doing, and this one was so super worth doing, and it will be amazing for you guys. So be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and I want to see you at an easel real soon, especially at the rainbow this week. All right, bye-bye.